All right, y'all, welcome to Blacks with Power, the show for blacks in America who want to discover ways to harness their power in order to protect the gains won by the struggles of our ancestors and advance the cause of freedom for themselves, their family, and others. We believe that for America to be great, for America to be the more perfect union that our Constitution calls for us to be, then we must have racial reconciliation in this country. And for there to be true reconciliation, blacks in America must empower themselves to compel and encourage repentance for the system and ideology of white supremacy and privilege that has betrayed the ideal of liberty and justice for all. I'm Father Jabril Ballantine, and I will be your guide to harnessing your power and leveraging it in ways to affect the changes that we need to see in order to make Black Lives Matter in America. Thank you so much for listening. You can visit us online at blackswithpower.com. Check us out on the Facebook page, facebook.com/blackswithpower. Subscribe to the show on iTunes, on YouTube, Stitcher, Google Play, or TuneIn. Listen to the previous episodes. Give us a thumbs up, a thumbs down, write a review. Let us know what you like, what you dislike, because this show is here for you. Now, I want to hear from you, so chime in, leave a comment, join the Facebook group, facebook.com/blackswithpower, and let's discuss, let's chop it up. But for today, brothers and sisters, I am chilling with the Chief Rocka #1, my man, Doitall Dupree Kelly. He is 1/3. For those of y'all, because I know some of y'all out there is kind of young, you know what I mean? No disrespect to the youngins. You hear Lonzo Ball trying to talk about who is real hip-hop and not real hop. Some of y'all don't know about Lords of the Underground. Go ahead and YouTube them. They have you headbanging, knocking your heads off, and gave us 5 #1 hits. You see the platinum plaques in the background, including Chief Rocka, like I said, Funky Child, and over 25 years of music business greatness. Doitall is a product of the Newark public school system and went on to attend Shaw University, where he became a member of my fraternity and your fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Oh, 6.
Yeah.
He is co-CEO of 211 Media Group, a company that specializes in all aspects of media, television, film production, as well as event planning and consulting. He also, on the flip side, has 211 Community Impact, which is a nonprofit that does community activism, grassroots programming, and addressing literacy, homelessness, mental health concerns, wellness, and youth initiatives. And he is running for councilman at large in Newark, New Jersey, in Brick City. You can learn more about his campaign by going to doitallfornewark.com. Doitall, my brother, how you doing?
What's up, Frat? What's going on,
Oh, man, you got it, brother. You got it. It's good to be with you, man. All that platinum stuff just glistening in the background, man.
Set it up like that. You see, I was sitting on the couch and you said you needed more light.
Yeah.
So I can't.
Oh no, the folks like bling, man. So we like that, man. We like that, man. So
because next year, man, it'll be. Let me see if I can point to it. That one right there. It'll be the 25th year anniversary of that Here Come the Lord's album, man. So definitely.
Hey, look, y'all want to hear some true headbanger boogie? Y'all pick that joint up right there.
Yeah.
You don't even have to pick it up no more. You can go to Apple Music and stream it. Man, how the game has changed. But it's good to be with you, man. I just want to talk to you about, because I love the idea. I told y'all that he is running for city council in Newark, New Jersey. And y'all know by now that he's legendary hip-hop MC. And just want to talk to you about some of those things. But first, before we get down the road on the campaign, just like, how'd you get into hip-hop? What compelled you? What drove you to become an MC?
The thing that drove me to become an MC is my uncle Dow. He came home from the army, and young guy coming home from the army, young. I'm very, very young. I'm not even a teenager. I'm in single digit age, and he brought this record home, and it was called Rapper's Delight by the Sugar Hill Gang.
Man, yeah.
He moved with us when he came home from the army, and he used to play this record all the time with his door closed. And I used to sit by his door and say, "What was that?" Because it wasn't what my mother was listening to in the living room.
Okay.
So needless to say, I stopped going in the living room. Well, she was playing some Marvin Gaye and James Brown and all of that type of stuff, which was classics too. But it was this other thing down the hall, in my uncle room that really made that magnetized me toward it. And just long story short, man, he told me, you know, when I leave, don't go in my room, don't touch my records, you know, and I did anyway.
Right, of
and
course.
and the 12 inch, that's when 12 inches was like this long on the wax, you know, and I used to play this record over and over, hip, the hop, the hippie. And then I started to see them on television, and this wasn't usual.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't wasn't normal. You didn't see this on regular television. You start seeing them on shows that were usually meant for very popular artists and mostly white artists like American Bandstand.
Right.
You start seeing it on Soul Train, and then you start hearing the news talk about it and the people talk about it. And then the people from the South Bronx and the people from uptown, this was an underground culture that they had been living for a long time. So you didn't know that this wasn't the first record, and you had to explore what was going on. So that's what made me get into it. And then when I discovered the whole culture, I understood that there was more than just the music. It was dancing, it was music, it was MCing, you know, it was graffiti, it was art, it was fashion, it was all of these things.
Right.
So I fell in love with the culture. I started to try to break dance. That didn't really work. Maybe I could pop lock a little bit, but the art, you know, and the graffiti and my penmanship was never great. So that didn't really turn out my lines was too crooked. It wasn't great. But one thing I did know that I was good at is I was good at narrating how we lived the culture. And that's what these did. And I was good at it, doing it over music and freestyling with it. And that's when I fell in love with hip hop, man.
Nice. No, I appreciate that, man. You said a couple things there that I want to double back on, man. You talked about this underground culture, and I think that dovetails into another question that I just wanted you to unpack for folk. Like, so what was and what is the philosophy behind the name Lords of the Underground?
Well, it's a whole philosophy. I don't know if people can see this, but I have the logo. Maybe you can put up the logo, or they can just Google the logo of Lords of the Underground.
Right.
I made the logo. If you look at our first album, I believe, I don't think we had the logo on the first album. Everything after that, the logo was attached to it.
Okay.
But during the first album, I started to notice, you know, people were remembered by the brand that they were associated with. And this is early on back then. And I started to notice that we weren't representing our brand in artwork and in paraphernalia. It was just our faces. It was always our pictures. But we didn't have something that when we weren't there, it represented us. So one time on tour, we were on tour with Cypress Hill. Shout out to my big brother, Cypress Hill. I was sitting in a cab going to a meeting or something in Amsterdam, and I decided to create the logo in the back of a taxi. So wow. I said, Lords of the Underground, what does that mean to us? You know, and I said, we're the lords of what we do. And when you think about underground, I felt like New Jersey, specifically Newark, New Jersey, that we were overshadowed by the big city, the birthplace of New York City when it came to hip hop. Even when we would travel, people would think, you know, where are you from?
Had to be from New York.
Yeah, from Newark. They were like, oh, okay, you're from New York City. And we would say, no, we from Newark. And we're like, well, that's close, isn't it? Like, yeah, but we're from Newark. And I just felt like people were taking for granted that, and there was no disrespect to New York. We just wanted our own identity.
Right.
You know, New York had all of the boroughs, Bronx. When you said you was from Brooklyn, people were excited. And we wanted, when you just say you was from Newark, to feel the same way. So when I created the logo, if you look at our logo is, it looks like a not a lightning rod, but an arrow that is held tightly clenched by a fist with a city on top of it. So that city represented where we was from. And I put the city on top of the fist and on the bottom of the arrow, but the bottom of the arrow, the arrow would look like it was going through the fist.
Okay.
So my whole concept was like the Underground Railroad. Like we had to travel and maneuver through vices and through tight clenched spaces and through things that people didn't think we could fit through just to make it to that point, that peak, that pyramid, that top. And we had to kind of made it seem like we was going in reverse almost just to get to the top. So it was almost like digging our way out of impoverished situations, digging our way out of impossible situations that people thought that we could not do. And we said that when we dig our way out, we're going to become the lords of that, man. And we was lords of the underground. But nice. the actual name came from a freestyle by my man Tragedy Gaddafi, the intelligent hoodlum.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. Like, you know, that's why it was so important to draw that out, right? Because you talk about this underground mentality, right, and maneuvering through all of the I mean, yeah, all of that manure, you know, in order to get somewhere positive and carrying the city on top, right? Like we do this for the people, you know. And when you talk about, you know, when you combine that with what you said earlier about what compelled you to be an MC in terms of, you know, this ability to narrate the culture, to narrate how we were living, how the folks are living, and you combine that with that mentality of carrying the city on your back, narrating on behalf and paving the way, you know, I look at where hip hop is today, right? Mm-hmm. And yeah, we still have MCs who still doing it. You know, shout out to Kendrick Lamar. You know, Kung Fu Kenny is still doing it. You know, and there's a bunch of cats that's doing it, right? But you know that's not the norm. You know, the kind of MO has kind of flipped. And so, you know, what would you say then is the difference between the role, the responsibility of an MC then versus the responsibility of an MC now?
Well, the responsible, I think it should be the way it was then. I think the responsibility should be the same responsibility. Now hear me out clearly though. The same responsibility as of then, but not necessarily the same subject matter because times change.
Right.
So what I mean by the same responsibility, all I mean is that MCing was being a narrator of the culture, how we live the culture of hip hop. So we talked about how our culture, our people, poor people, poverty people were being oppressed. We talked about things that directly affected us as people who live the culture of hip hop. So, okay, hip hop has grown up a little bit. It has broadened its horizons, become a worldwide phenomenon. So that doesn't, whatever you use to narrate the way that you live something and you use the culture of hip hop to do it through rap music, then speak your truth. That's right. All if you're not a drug dealer and you didn't sell 2,000 pounds keys of cocaine, then don't say you did.
Right.
You know, if you didn't murder 48 people like you did first, then don't say you did.
Right.
You know, symbolic. Unless you're talking about how this kills MCs, that you're talented, you can still be braggadocious. And you know, I'm not hating on the youth, the younger. I think that they still can be hip hop, and a lot of them still are. But just speak your truth. And when you talk about responsibility, it's our responsibility to control the narrative of our culture.
Right.
It's our responsibility to speak the truth. Because if you perpetuate and you lie about how we live the culture, then that is documented. That is documented in MP3s. That is documented in videos. And then now, when you're no longer here and somebody else is learning the culture, they're learning incorrectly. They're learning fake narratives or fake news, or they're learning
alternative facts.
There you go. They're learning alternative facts that are not true. So, you know, hip hop, when I learned the hip hop, you can exaggerate, you can brag, but you never really just outright lie.
Right.
Wasn't supposed to.
Right.
You know, and that's all I ask for MCs. I'm not telling them how to write their rhymes. I'm not telling them what to say. I'm just telling them, be responsible, speak your truth, because whether you realize it or not, you are documenting history.
Yeah. Yeah, and here's the dovetail for me, right? So we're talking about, you know, you, Lord of the Underground. We talking about you running for city council. To me, the nexus is like Rakim said to me, MC is move the crowd. Like, how do you shape a narrative that motivates people to do what you want them to do? You know, so how do you represent what you're seeing in the community that you're from, and move the powers that be to do what you need them to do what you want them to do for the people, carrying the city, carrying the district that you represent on your back, moving them for the people, right? So then, what would you say is like the single greatest reason? There's a whole bunch of reasons that I could think of, but if we had to choose one, what would be the single greatest reason that being a hip hop MC prepares someone for civic leadership?
Well, easy, man. When you talk about galvanizing people, bringing people together in solidarity, hip hop has done that.
Right.
But since its inception, you know what I mean? Since it's done that since the beginning. So if you can galvanize millions of people just by your words, just by your movement, just by your art, if you can have millions of people looking up at you on stage, paying attention to what you are saying, then it's your responsibility to say something. Because, you know, like my uncle used to say, you can catch, but can you keep?
Right.
And I believe that hip hop is a great way to attract people. Entertainment is a great way to attract people. Arts and culture is a great way to galvanize people to what you have to say to get them to listen. But when they listen, you have to say something. And you can't be the smartest person at the table all the time. Maybe you're just the one who can galvanize the people. And then you should be able to say, okay, but I need to put smarter people at the table with me so we can relay messages and understand what the people need. And the other part of that question is when you talk about hip hop and you're talking about bringing people together in solidarity and galvanizing them, then if you can do that, man, like you should be like they can. If you can do that, bro.
Right, especially in these times when don't nobody want to come together.
No, but that means that you understand the language, right? So when you understand language, and this goes for any type of spoken language or physical language, and they say music is the universal language, but when you understand each other's language, you have a better sense of direction. You get or gain a better understanding of who you're dealing with, what you're dealing with, and vice versa. They understand who you are, what you're dealing with. So that's the understanding. If hip hop is the pop culture and one of those elements or knowledge of the pillars of hip hop, then if we have the understanding of the knowledge that we speak, then we can better communicate with each other. If we can better communicate with each other, then we can better relate to each other.
Right.
If we can better relate to each other, then our mindsets change. Right. Economic growth happens. Creativity spurs economic development. Right. I don't care what anybody says.
Right.
And if you look at how arts and culture is being activated within political society nowadays, and all as they say, all politics are local, right? So if you look at how arts and culture has been passed over or put way at the bottom when it comes to ordinances and policy, when you talk about policies, and it used to be put way at the bottom, but now, since hip hop is the pop culture and to see that it's becoming $1 billion business, now it's starting to be put more implemented in direct policies that are in top 5. You know, when politicians talk about their top 3 or top 5 issues or top 4 issues, arts and culture is now involved in that. Why? Because if we truly want a safer tomorrow and a better tomorrow, then we have to make a greater investment into our youth, right? So if we make a greater investment into our youth, then how do we initiate that? How do we activate that? And then it's usually activated through whatever the current pop culture is.
Through the arts.
Right, through the arts and culture. And Newark, New Jersey right now is ranked 9th nationally on the use and profit off of arts and culture.
Wow.
And it has a lot to do with our Prudential Center Arena, where the New Jersey Devils play at, and all our other facilities like the New Jersey Performing Arts Center and things of that nature. So what that is telling you is that if a city that's 300,000 people like Newark, New Jersey, can make $173.8 million within a year and make us ninth on a in a city level of arts and culture being used, and then the residents who are gaining $133 million,
Right.
just in a household that people who are directly involved with the workforce of arts and culture, then that speaks volumes.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
you have to be able to use what you have to get the people to understand and listen. People say, well, the singers might not understand about the hip hop. That's right, they might not. But they should be open to listen to it. They should be open to understand what's going on. Yeah, if there's some bad undertones of hip hop, yes, there's bad undertones of rock music. There's
right.
bad undertones of every single thing that you deal with. So all awareness has to be made. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm taking a step forward and saying, I am hip hop. I am hip hop growing up,
Right.
and so when you look at me, then and you say, well, he's a business owner, he's an entrepreneur, he went to college, he's back in his city, he has a nonprofit organization. I am hip hop.
Right.
I am not to be afraid of anymore.
Right.
Hip hop is not anything to be afraid of, but it's something to take notice to, because it's a powerful tool that can not only move our cities, our states, our communities, but the world. I mean, it can move society forward in the world.
And we were talking about this earlier, but like you talk about that maturation process and hip hop growing up and the need for hip hop to come out of the underground and start taking seats at the table. And that's primarily the thrust of what you're doing in this campaign is endeavoring to take your seat at the table as hip hop and represent the community in a different way, beyond just wax, but also in a position where you can actually literally affect the change. So, here it is. We're in this era. And, whatever you want to say about Trump, I said enough about Trump and Trumpism, Lord have mercy. But whatever you want to say about Trump, he comes from one sector of pop culture, right?
Yeah.
He comes from that reality TV show sector of pop culture, that reality TV mess. We see what it gives us, man. I've always hated reality TV, but whatever. But, coming to the table and bringing their influence to bear on shaping society. So let's use him as a barometer. Let's use his term limits as a barometer, right? What would have to happen in the age of Trumpism? What would have to happen over the course of the next, 3 to 5 years for hip hop to take an adequate position at the seats of power?
Well, I mean, in order to, it's like when the question is asked, how do you eat a well? Right? Bite by bite.
Right.
You know what I mean? How do you build a city? Brick by brick. So this didn't happen just overnight of how they built the system that governs our society. Right? So it's not going to happen overnight. But anything and everything is possible. Right? We've seen that.
Right.
So what I'm trying to do, or what I'm doing, is I want to spark some of the young hip hop artists, some of the people who are growing up in the hip hop culture, some of the artists right now who have millions and millions of followers, fans. Let's just take Kendrick Lamar. Why would, if he wanted to be able to become the mayor of Compton,
right?
Why wouldn't he in 4 to 8 years?
And still make records.
And still whatever.
Right.
Why couldn't he?
Right.
Why couldn't T.I. in Atlanta, who's boycotting restaurants for discrimination and galvanizing people from Atlanta to not eat
run
or
for
spend?
Mayor.
Why couldn't he run for? And then when you do that, we have to become part of legislation so we can be able to directly affect change by writing and correcting and improving and making legislation work for us, work for our people. And what I mean by eating the whale bite by bite is it starts to get where Trump is. It starts in every city, this city, that city, a T.I. in Atlanta, a Kendrick Lamar in L.A. or Compton, and Eminem in Detroit.
Right.
You know what I mean? Why not? So now, when we have people in place, now we have the power to directly affect who is now elected as senator, who now is elected as congressman, who now is elected, because all politics are local. Right. So now what can happen is when you have a majority Democratic Senate or Congress or vice versa or what have you, you have people with direct connection with the hip hop community, right, with the poverty community, with people of disbanded communities and oppressed communities, impoverished communities within our society. So now when you're screaming, we need help, why no, I'm not voting because nobody speaks our language, we don't have a voice. Now you do have a voice.
Yeah.
Now you can respect the power of the ballot.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then when somebody has a seat at the table that represents you, or at anything, it doesn't just have to be politics, you feel more comfortable. You feel like, man, I'm involved because that person represents what I represent. Right. So you can hold people accountable with the power of the ballot.
And that's a heck of a lot different from what we have now, because right about now, they love parading hip-hop artists out come election time. They love parading them out and having them do shows and so on and so forth to get out the vote. But at the end of the day, them same people ain't got no power. They ain't got no political power. Let me put it that way.
No.
They can't make legislation. They can't pass legislation. They can't block legislation. You know what I mean? But when they do what you're just talking about, now they have a seat at the table where they can make legislation because, like you said, you narrating the journey, you narrating what we going through, and if you live that life, or even if you just had a window on that life, looking out of my project window on that life, man, you see it firsthand, and you know exactly what needs to shape because you write it down every day. This is what I need to say. This is what I need to say. And now instead of just writing lyrics, you're writing legislation, that speaks to those lyrics.
Definitely. You're writing laws, you're writing ordinances, you're writing tactics that's going to really change the environment and the culture of your city, states, communities, and nationally. That is humongous, and I just believe that I'm in a position where I can put myself in a position to be the precursor for the next hip hop president, next hip hop senator or congressman. I believe, and I believe we're going to do it. I believe that we can do it. And I know it. I feel it deep down in my heart. I had a conversation with Tupac over 20 years about this same thing. And what Pac told me he was like, dude, we have to get more popular as hip hop artists because the more popular we get, we can galvanize more of the youth. Now we're 21, 22 talking like this, and Pac was
right.
Galvanize and solidarity.
Right.
And he said we can the more we get popular, then you in Newark, Tretch in East Orange, me out in Oakland, and Ice Cube, or whoever were the hot people at that time. Right. We have the power to utilize our strengths of our people to bring them together faster than the politician. That's why the politicians always call on the entertainers and artists, because they don't have that power.
Exactly.
If you can, and they use you as the middleman to utilize your people. And, I just believe that if you have something that I can use, then I'm going to use it. I'm not afraid of the word use anymore.
Right.
Right. We're taught as we grow up to don't let anybody use you. We taught that that's a negative thing. But if you have a certain skill set, if you have a certain talent, then I should be able to utilize that if we run in the same circles. If you my
Right.
brother, if
Right.
you my sister, but vice versa.
Right.
You should be
It
able
should
to
be mutual. Yeah.
Yes, because that's where the problem come in. We should be able to utilize each other. The problem comes in when we start to misuse each other.
Right.
You know, we can't misuse each other. But if you have a skill set, if you are a heck of a bio writer or writer, period, why wouldn't I utilize you to help me with anything that has to be written? If I'm a person that can galvanize people together and bring them together, why wouldn't you do that? Let's do those type of things for each other. And if we do those type of things for each other, our mindset starts to change. If our mindset starts to change, then we react and respond differently to different things. And we have a better understanding of different policies, what's meant for us, what's not for us, and what is not there for us. And we can create what we need.
Right.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
We can have better conversations at that table that we're looking for to see that.
Oh, yeah, definitely, definitely. It's funny you say all that because I was saying even before, like, I was like, man, we need Jay-Z to run for president. You know, he's got the stature where he can run for president. You know what I mean? White folks have already seen him in a tux. So
Man, yeah.
and they all love Beyonce, so they love her as first lady. So you know, could you imagine? Could you imagine what would happen there? You know,
I can't imagine it.
Right.
And that's what we start doing. We have to start imagining and believing that it's possible.
Right, because like you said, all of y'all have these followings that are tremendous. And why use your following for somebody else? That probably won't tell the story the way you would tell it. You know, 9 times out of 10 ain't going to tell the story. They're going to say all the right things come election time, but as soon as they get to the halls of power, they're going to forget everything that they said. You know?
Why would I use my people to push your agenda forward when your agenda doesn't reflect my people or my culture?
Exactly. And so that's what I get out of the movement. That's why I wanted y'all to meet Do It All and to know about his campaign. You go to doitallfornewark.com and learn more about his campaign, learn more about where he is on the issue. If you're in the Newark area, to help him on his campaign, to volunteer. If you're outside the Newark area, to donate to his campaign, because money can come from everywhere, you know.
Hey, you can text $5, you can text $1, you can text $1,000 if you can. You know, with these political campaigns, people don't realize that they won't allow you in the citywide election that I'm doing. They won't allow me to accept more than $2,600 at one time from a person doing the election cycle. So, man, we need all of the help that we can get. So if anybody can just text whatever you can contribute, donate, believe me, it will not be taken for granted, and it's going towards a bigger fight. It's bigger than me. You can text Do It All to 973-846-2211. That's text Do It All to 973-846-2211. You'll get a text back and ask us what you want to. It's going to ask you what you want to donate, and whatever you can do, man. If you believe in the cause, and if you believe what I'm saying is bigger than me, it's bigger than Newark, New Jersey. Even though the campaign is Do It All for Newark, it's bigger than all of that, man. You know, it's bigger than all of that.
Yeah,
so.
and I'm gonna post that number in the post, y'all. When I put up the blog post, you're gonna see that number and so you'll have that number. If you don't remember it. But at the same time, what I wanted to say, because this is what I was going to say, you know, I say it for you, you know what I mean? But, you know, the reason you give to this campaign, right, beyond Newark, because you may not care about Newark, you know what I mean? You may not live in Newark. You know, those of you that live in New York, you all know why to give to this campaign, why to volunteer for this campaign. But those of y'all beyond Newark, you're like, whatever, man, you know. But here's why it matters. Because when we elect Do It All, and we show that hip-hop can take a seat at the table, we start to call other artists to the table, because all of our cities has some prominent artist that we know is down for the people, that is down for the cause. Yeah, everyone got a sellout artist. We all got those too. But all of y'all, every city out there, we know we got artists who we were like, man, I wish he would run for office. Like
David, what up, David Banner?
Yeah, see? You know
What's up? Mike, what's up, T.I.? I mean, there's so many people you can go on, man.
Right. And so we start to have this movement. Once we elect one, we show the rest that, yo, this can be done. And let's start this movement. Let's start calling all of these artists, not out like we mad at them, but let's start calling on these artists like, yo, you've been in the trenches and we want you to go out here. So when you support Do It All's campaign, if you're outside of Newark, that's what you're doing. You're showing the example. You're creating the model that says, look, we can do this, and look, we gonna support you. Even if we ain't in your city, Kendrick Lamar, we gonna support you. Even if we ain't in your city, Eminem, we rock with what you said about the president, we gonna support you. You know, Killer Mike, we gonna support you. You know what I mean? Like, we start calling them all out like, yo, we are here with you. We gonna support you. We gonna put you in the office. Hip hop is gonna put you in the office around the country. And then and then we gonna have a large block party. Somebody gonna make Dave Chappelle chief of staff, and we gonna rock out.
Oh, that's gonna be a heck of a block party, definitely.
All right, imagine the inauguration banquet, man. But no, seriously, y'all. You know, MCs, hip hop has been street prophecy for years. Yeah. And when we look at the failures of the establishment, you know, the same things that Donald Trump supporters are complaining about, how the establishment has failed them, we can say the same thing in the black community, the urban community. The establishment has failed us for forever. You know what I mean? The system ain't never worked right. Well, I mean, I guess you could say it worked exactly how it was supposed to work, but
it's always been against us.
But it ain't worked. And so we got the same move. And so it's time to try something different. It's time to go with those that we know have been in the trenches for us, that ain't just in the trenches when it's convenient, that has slaved at this hip hop thing when it wasn't popular, that have pissed off their mothers and fathers when they were just in the basement making music and no one believed that it would go nowhere, that have been there for us, just relaying the conditions, either telling the system what's going on or comforting us to let us know that they understand. It's time we start calling those people like, yo, we need you. We tired of those fools who've been doing this for forever, these professional politicians who've been doing this for forever. And not that we want that mess that Donald Trump has given us, but we want people that, like you said, that know what they need to know and are willing to learn what they need to learn and are satisfied not being the smartest person in the room, but they know how to move a crowd.
That's right. That's right, man. Eric B. and Rakim, baby, let's move the crowd.
Yeah, man.
If we crowd, then we can move them into a place where they can understand why they're being moved and their power. That's all we want them to understand, is understand that they have power. You know, that we can be the ones who can control the destination of policies and how policies are created. You know, we always ask someone, you know, we always vote for people to push their agendas forward, and their agendas does not support
Never
because
have.
they understand. So let's stop voting for people who don't have our best interests at heart. You know, that's all I'm saying. Put people in there that understand you, and that's it.
Right, and that understands you well enough that can convey a message that speaks exactly what you would say if you had the words to say it.
Right.
You know, because when a person understands you at that level, you can rest assured that they're going to represent you well. And so that's why I'm asked. That's why I wanted to do it all on the show. That's why I wanted you on the show, brother. That's why I wanted you all out there, brothers and sisters, to hear him, to know about him, because I thought it was phenomenal when I saw that, you know, one of my favorite artists was getting up and actually running for office. And I was like, oh man, there's one. The revolution is coming. And so, you know, when we see that, brothers and sisters, need y'all to support it, empower it, bless it, you know what I mean? Uphold it. So go to doitallfornewark.com, check out more, contribute what you can, tell your friends, just share it, make it go viral so that everyone knows about it and can bring more attention to what he's doing. And then we can turn the light on the other artists and be like, yo, Do It All is doing it. What about you?
I'll even take it even one. If you decide to do it, the same team that is helping me, the same blueprint, because I'm documenting it. I'm not just, because when I'm not going to say if, I'm going to say when we win, now it becomes a blueprint.
Right.
It becomes a template. So I will assist anybody else with these endeavors if they really have, and we'll find out and figure out, do they really have a shot? And I'll put the same professionals and team that is helping me. We'll consult and help you guys be able to do the same thing in your cities, because all politics are local.
Right. So I thank you so much, brother. I thank you very much for taking the time out of your schedule to come on the show. And I thank you all, brothers and sisters, for listening. So now we want to hear from you. So go to facebook.com/blackswithpower. Like the Facebook page. Subscribe to the show on iTunes, on Google Play, on Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube. Listen to the previous episodes. Write a review. Join us in the Facebook group. You can go to blackswithpower.com/Facebook. Have our conversation. Let's chop it up. Talk about more ways to empower these type of endeavors. And then share your favorite episodes with family, with friends. A charge to keep we have, brothers and sisters. That's what the ancestors used to say. A charge to keep we have. A God to glorify. A never-dying soul to save and fit it for the sky. We have come a long way. Lord knows, thanks be to God, we as a people have accomplished a great deal. But we ain't there yet.
No.
So let us march on till victory is won.
Right.
Live with power.